Hello. This is Wesley Davis with the Frankfurt group for SER 316. I'm just gonna go through our first sprint iteration just to show you what we did and um, what we accomplished. So this initially here is our sprint board. So essentially showing all of the initial, a handful of the initial user stories that we went through. These are all the tasks that were here. When I mention, as I go through the video and I mention the user stories, I'll do my best to match up the tasks with the user stories. There's just quite a few, and gonna try to keep this video short. So if I undercut that, I do apologize. Most first things first, we'll start with user story number 7 because that's up at load. As a user, I want the splash screen and title of the new program to show. The ones that were in charge were was that me? No, I helped find out where it was in the app.java file, so we made the changes there. But the team member that actually did that was Jesse Sabbath. So for user stories, that user story was somewhat of a joint effort. User story number 7 was by Jesse Sabbath and Wesley Davis. Most of the work, though, credited to Jesse Sabbath. But I'm going to go ahead and load it up with Gradle here in Terminal. Gradle build, just to get that build going. Give that just a couple seconds, then Gradle, as I type in the wrong things, Gradle run. It's going to be quick, but it's going to show the new splash page point to point. This is the new logo. And then we get the program running here. So the program is still running successfully, hasn't broken, or I haven't done anything to break it yet. So the next user story and tasks I'm going to cover are going to be user story number 3. As a developer, I want the update and build number to display correctly. This one here, and we got some incorrect splashes, but it looks like tasks 13 and 14. Going back to user story 7. Trezor actually made the changes so that the splash page displays correctly. So I get to go back and attribute to that. But for user story number 3, going back to 3, Trezor was in charge of changing it where he found the issues in the XML file. So user story 3, tasks 21 and 20 were assigned to him. When I bring the program back up, if you notice, the version numbers are no longer variable names, but they are actual version and build numbers. These aren't our version and build numbers, but they were whichever build numbers were available in the XML file. So those were attributed to Trezor. The next user story I'm going to cover is going to be the user story number 2. As a user, I want the symbols and language to display correctly. That's going to be attributed to James and Adrian. Adrian 15, James 16 and 17 for the task numbers. But when we go in, these used to be in Spanish, unreadable and different weird logical symbols. But here we have enter file name. Gonna hit OK. A document can be imported because I didn't put anything in there. But that appears in English now. Same thing with export. I'm gonna hit OK for that. Successfully created a document. Didn't put anything in there. That's something we're gonna look to fix in the future. But these here are no longer in weird symbols as well. The next user story, going back here, that we're going to look over is going to be user story number 1. So the minimization issue, tasks 18 and 19 were also done by Jesse. These were fairly simple, just going here. Initially, once it minimized, it closed the program out. But if I minimize it now, you can look down below, and there's that little kind of like memorandum project default. But when I load it back up, the program is still running and executing. So that's user story number 1. And then the last user story I want to go over is the closing, and the final one here. I left it last because when I close a program, it successfully closes. When I pull up the Gradle terminal, Gradle says 3 actionable tasks, 1 executed, 2 up to date. So that's the save feature for your settings and everything in the background. I can run it again. Oh, no. Gradle run. Do a quick run there. Splash page 1 last time. And then the other portion is that if I go to the file and I hit exit, it's going to ask me if I want to close that again. And it does. So those are all the user stories and all the implementations we did for sprint number 1. I hope that works, and see you in the next sprint.